link this to Facebook and we'll get going.
I didn't even know that works.
Well, Zoom has this cool little thing that you can go on the back end of it. Sarah kind of taught me, she told me it was easy. So I went and Googled it, and I was like, okay, hey, this works way better than Instagram Live. So it was the Instagram Live stuff. When you do it with a duet, you can't save it. So you have to screen record it, and it's such a hassle. And it really is.
Which is weird because Facebook, Zoom, and Instagram are all in the same family, but for some reason
they hobble it just like they just hobble it. So you have to use all platforms.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Did I get it right? Yeah, there we go. Go live. And go. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another chat with Coach Doug. I'm so very pleased I have these two fantastic women on today. My two colleagues and friends, Christy Longfield from Austin, Texas, and Sarah Stone.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
From down in Jupiter, Florida. And it's really kind of cool. They were so busy last week, they couldn't join us for some of our Women in Golf Week, so I thought I'd bump them a week, and they found some time. Christy's even taking a break from a lesson, and she's doing it from her golf cart. So this is going to be great. Sarah, I caught her on her day off. So a little information, everybody, on why I asked these two wonderful ladies to come on. They're two very big leaders in their respective fields. Christy was just awarded the Harvey Penick Award for Teacher of the Year in Texas from the PGA, which her PGA section last year. Very, very deserving. She is a huge proponent of junior golf, which we'll get into a little bit as well. Sarah is someone, I think, if there's anybody that can match Sarah's professional development and learning over the last 3 years, I don't think you can get anybody that might have done as much personal development as she has in going and taking and watching people and always asking questions. She's a great coach. She works at the Bears Club in Jupiter. And then during the season, she gets to hang out at this tiny little club up in New York, up in the Met section in New York called Westchester. So two very accomplished professionals, and I'm so very happy to have on. Thank you very much, ladies, and good day.
Thanks for having us, Doug.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Very welcome. It's kind of wild because social media is kind of how the three of us have kind of got to know each other, and the PGA show. And then, you know, just really that whole world of just coaching and how it's really brought us together and developed relationships. And it's kind of like over these last 7 weeks, you really see how our community has really come together and really gotten and surrounded each other and done things to just help each other out. How have you guys found that?
Sarah, you want to go or you want me to go?
Sure, I'll.
Arm wrestle.
Sarah, you go.
All right, Sarah, you lead us off. How have you found it? Because Sarah, you've hosted a few Facebook Lives yourself with some great clientele on.
Yeah, so I have two buddies who I've been coaching besties with, I guess you'd call it, for like the last 5 or 6 years, Colin Emerald and Joe Agnolia. And we've been talking about trying to get this podcast off the ground for the last 5 years. It's been on our to-do list. And then finally this quarantine happened and it looked like the best time. And we got it off and running pretty early in the game, which was good. And I just use the extensive network that we've, all three of us have been able, like you Christy, you Doug, you cultivated through attending all these kind of conferences and seminars and get-togethers. And at Bears Club, a lot of PGA Tour coaches that I've gotten to develop really nice relationships with who are very giving of their time. So we wanted to create a platform or a podcast where it was very non-confrontational, very much more like the story behind the story of these great coaches and how they got where they are, as opposed to the players that they work with or the controversies that they may or may not have. So it's been a lot of fun. I've become an investigative journalist, which I didn't know I could do. I'm using my computer more than I ever thought I would. And my marketing degree has been used. So it's been a pretty productive quarantine.
You know, it's funny. They don't understand how much research you have to do to find out about your subjects and what you have to do to make it engaging.
You have to become a stalker.
Yeah.
100% you have to be a stalker. Exactly, right? It's like, how much can you get out of Google, right? When you type in their names. And have you guys done that to yourselves lately? Because boy, there's lists of you two. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. No, I do it all the time.
That's hilarious. So how about you, Christy? How you been doing?
Yeah, it was crazy there for a while. Texas handles things a little bit differently than a lot of the rest of the country, and a lot in Canada, Mexico, things like that. So we've been lucky, and don't get me wrong, there are a couple of weeks in there where I was scrambling and trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I was definitely doing some networking with other people and my colleagues and my mentors and things like that. And I took to kind of trying to figure out how my players, whoever they were, the little guys, old guys, whatever, how they were going to be able to do golf at home if we never got back to the golf course. What if we had 6 months instead of 2 weeks or whatever we had? And I was really, really trying to scramble and create ways for them to have golf at home.
Well, that's great. I mean, showing that creativity. I mean, I remember I was talking to James Hong about this, and we were talking about it's the connectivity with your clients. And it's the relationships that you build with them, whether they're juniors, whether they're adults, and the consistency of, like, sometimes when you're standing there on the lesson tee with them, it's as much a social interaction and a release valve for them that it is them learning about golf, because they like coming to see you because you engage them, you ask them about themselves, they get to release a little bit, they get to be a little bit more relaxed. And James brought up a really interesting thing. He noticed something in one of the Zoom lessons with his young guy, that the young guy was getting a little bit upset. And so he actually talked to the mom afterwards, and the mom said actually his behavior had started to really change, and it changed even better. It was changing for the worse. But when he got outside with some of his friends, it changed, because he was so used to being away from his parents at school and then going to golf and then having his own independence. He was around his parents all the time.
Well, they're getting, I mean,
right?
Humans, they need social interaction. We all do. I mean, we can't be locked up in our houses. And don't get me wrong, this is a great form of communication and I really value it. But I don't want to live in a box. I'd love to be outside. And I mean, this is my office right here and I'm sitting in it. And if I couldn't do this every day, I would probably be cranky like James' little guy.
You the same, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I know some people in New York who put up some inflatable simulator coaches, and they have people booking 2 hours at a time out. It's like, and the coach and I were talking, he's like, I think they just want to hang out with me. They just want to go back to some sort of regular schedule and get away from their family for 2 hours and hang out with Coach Doug and have a good time. And because he said he wasn't doing a ton of technical instruction. It was a lot of talking and hitting balls. And
I remember I had this young guy on, and he's like, look, Coach Doug, what I learned how to do. And he starts doing like ninja sword with his golf club, right? And that lasted right up until, where he absolutely nailed himself. And then he was on the ground, and I was like trying to show empathy for him. I was killing myself. But I mean, it was so much of an interaction and fun, right? I mean, he's like 10. So it was hilarious. But the thing is, it's this, right? And it's still, it's wonderful, like you said, Christy, but it doesn't replace the being in person, seeing them, right? And it's hard. But I mean, I'm glad. I mean, like I said to you guys just before we got on here, we our governor, our premier of our province, just said golf can come back starting on Saturday here in Ontario. So really excited for that, and get back out on the lesson tee probably mid next week. So that's pretty awesome.
That's great.
Sarah, you said you're probably going to stay down in Florida for a little bit longer based on what's going on in New York, eh?
Yeah, it's hard because you're so far removed being down here. I feel that way. And then the communication of what's going on up there to people down here doesn't happen as well. And you talk to one coach and they're like July 29th, and you talk to another coach and they're like June 6th. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. But thankfully, a lot of the people that I coach down here have places in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, and they're not going north anytime soon. So it's been a blessing to have playing lessons back up and running and spending time on the golf course. So
that's awesome. Hey, Christy, I wanted to ask you, I noticed you've been doing a little bit of work with Mr. Rich Franklin in Discovery Golf. I mean, Rich is his own man, and I love the guy. He's fantastic, and he's got some really amazing thoughts and stuff. What's been your, like, I know you've always been a big champion of junior golf and stuff like that. what are you finding with Discovery Golf that's appealing to you right now, and how does it fit into your teaching?
Well, what's really interesting, Doug, is that with school out and all other activities kind of on the table and pushed to the side, that's no baseball, no football, no field hockey, no lacrosse. None of that is happening right now. But we're very lucky that golf is open. So I have the ability to take all kids, not just golf kids, and if you think back to your early summer camps that you did when you first started, we felt like, and I felt like, this is my personal opinion, that you always knew who the good golf kids were, the guys that were interested, the guys that played, but you always had a handful of drop-offs that they were just there because their parents wanted them to try it. And regular golf instruction, historical golf instruction has never been geared to all kids. It's always been the best kids, the best golf kids, not good or bad, just they were interested. So, what Richard has done with Discover Golf is really kind of targeted the 99% of kids that aren't really going to be golf kids. And we have this huge opportunity in our laps. Not that COVID can be a blessing, but it really is a blessing in disguise for golf right now. If there's any junior golf coaches out there, Discover Golf in your arsenal is massive, because you can reach so many more kids than just the golf kids. And I'm not dismissing the golf kids. So everyone here knows that I have tons of golf kids in my camp, and that's great. But I really want to touch all kids and let them learn about golf in a way that they can be interested and successful. I always in my camps years ago tried to figure out the way for the non-golf kids to win the games. Try to reverse engineer the games to where the least skilled player could be the winner. And that's really hard to do in a majority of golf games. Richard's cracked the code. I mean, it's ingenious. I'm happy to have it. I'm lucky to have it. I use it every day. Private lessons, adult lessons, some ladies clinics, things like that. I get it all out there. It's fun.
That's awesome. And that's what I noticed. And I mean, I know Rich, I've talked to him. I'm trying to get him to actually, I want him to do something for our PGA of Ontario, because I think more people need to understand it. I mean, I brought Kate up a few years ago, which was great. And I mean, I know that a few clubs have actually come on board with her this year. So, I mean, it's just expanding things, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, if you do anything with kids, anything, and I mean, and if you're an elite academy and that's your wheelhouse, that's great. Continue on the road of being an elite academy. All I'm saying is that kids are kids and they deserve to play, and you never know who's going to come out of somebody that you maybe didn't think was golfy and became golfy. It's happened.
You got to give them that opportunity first, right? And
absolutely.
And that's just
and if they're not having fun, there's no way they're going to keep going. No,
that's true. I mean, it's essential that they have fun. So I'm going to take us back in time. The three of us were sitting in a bar in Savannah.
No, we weren't.
That doesn't sound like us.
That doesn't sound like us at all.
We're sitting in that, and it was really cool because we were at Andrew Rice's coach camp, and you know what? It was Gankus and Cameron and David Orr and Andrew, and for the most part that was my first exposure to something like that. But it's really an interesting point, and I'm not sure if you guys caught this, but Trillium had an interview with Jim McLean, and in there Jim McLean comes back with a little bit of saying, I think there's just too much Messiah complex on these guys who think they're the saviors of golf and they've figured it all out and you got to come to me. And, it's like that. And I'm a little bit 50-50 because I'm thinking, well, hold on here, Jim. On the same handle, back when you were like the man and you, David Ledbetter and, Rick Smith, and there was like 4 or 5 of you guys thought you had it all figured out. And you guys were the messiahs for everybody, right? I think you have a few books in your arsenal that you wrote based on that. How do you think, is this just a different time for this messiah complex because we have more technology than these guys? Or is it a whole other kettle of fish? What do you think, Sarah?
Well, so this has been a really interesting conversation I've been seeing come up. And Mike Adams and Terry Rolls did the Ultimate Golf Lesson, and that was one of the panels, was the repackaging of coming in at the 45th floor, so to speak. All of us coaches, or not us in general, but newer coaches coming in who, I know TrackMan, I know Swing Catalyst, I know Ground Forces, I know everything. I'm 25 years old and I'm going to help you, Coach Doug, go play PGA Tour golf. So I think it's going on. I don't know that if it's like moved in a wave through our business, or if it's always been an underlying factor that there's always 4 or 5 people that know everything. But I haven't noticed that it's going up or down. I just feel like it's always there.
Yeah.
Kind of exactly.
You think so too,
Yeah.
Christy?
Yeah, no, I agree with Sarah completely. I think I'm a baby in this business. Okay. I'm a baby in the learning. So I don't know what it was like 25 years ago, but I have to imagine that it's mimics and it's the same and it mirrors. It's just the characters change and the faces change. And somebody's going to believe that they have every answer to every question. And there's going to be a ton of people right there in the middle who are absorbing and learning and going and taking notes and taking every piece of technology they can get their hands on and learning it and applying it, but not having to voice that they know everything about everything.
Well, it's an interesting point, because I actually think that, with social media and the way that it comes across is that it's given the perception that and hey, you know what, some have used it to their advantage, right? But I mean, it gives the perception that they have done all the work, or they have the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And it's a really interesting point, because standing on the left tee, and this is right to the two of you, I don't think there's anything that beats standing in the trenches, digging it out with your student every single day, and doing tons of reps with tons of people with all kinds of different problems, than putting them on TrackMan or gears or a force plate every single time and saying, well, your foot pressure is not the right thing.
Well, I also, if I can speak a little bit more on that, I think not enough coaches ask for help from their network. Like, I've talked to top 100 coaches who are like, Sarah, you cannot tell your clients that you're going to ask for help. And I'm like, but I think that's the building of my whole coaching platform I'm on, is my members think it's so cool that I can call up Christy Longfield in Texas and be like, I need help with this junior golfer's golf swing, or I can call David Orr and send him a putting stroke that I have no idea. So I see 2 camps with that too, and I understand both sides of it, but that goes back to the Messiah thing. It's like, I certainly would never put myself there, because all I do is ask for help, or why.
Right. I think the people who would fall into the Messiah camp are the ones who want everyone to believe, and they may know everything. I don't know. They might, but they don't want people to think that they have to ask questions. They want to be the person who wears all the hats and has all the answers. I try to learn as much as I can about all the different technology, every aspect. I'm in a tough spot. I'm a director of instruction at a private golf club that's very active, ages 3 to 75. I have to wear all the hats, mid-am players, guys trying to play professionally, junior players, D1 players. I have to help all these people, plus Mrs. So-and-so who came to the ladies clinic. You can't teach them all the same. You can have all the knowledge, but they don't all need it. So I'm happy to ask questions. I'm lucky. I have Chap Cook in my backyard, and he fields a lot of questions for me because he has so much knowledge I couldn't even try. He's in all the personal development activities that Sarah and I are going to, and you, Doug. Chuck's always there learning too. And that's what's so cool.
I think that shows that, it's kind of like what I always say in my hashtag, where better never stops, right? You always have to keep working. And this game, Christy, you touched on it very, very briefly, but I mean, I'm fairly new in this over the last 10 years. I've always taught golf, but I've never been this dedicated over the last 10 years like I have. And the things I've learned in the last 10 years exponentially, have grown, right? And I really liked what you said, Sarah. If you're having the ability to tap into a brain of somebody who's a very, very expert at one specific facet, you may not be the expert, but man, if you have a relationship with David Orr, I have a relationship with a gentleman by the name of Gareth Lefleski, who teaches so many of the women on the LPGA, right? Like, he teaches Jin Young Ko, he teaches the Kernigaren sisters, Nelly Corda, and he's 2 hours away from me. And I could pick up the phone and send him videos, right? So I get, Sarah, you met Vanessa, the right? Okay. So take as a consideration, yesterday I had a Zoom call, and I had our women's national team coach, Tristan, on the call, just watching to give us, give me any help to help her progress. because she's grown 6 inches in the last 6 months, right? So it's just, I really think that's how coaches need to evolve. So you guys continuously go to professional development, and we're on this little vein, and I think this is super important. Do you ever think that sometimes we can get a little overloaded with information?
Yeah, I have gone back and forth and actually wrestled with this a lot, because I really like learning from lots of different types of people. And I get to a point, like I had this conversation the other day with another coach. I'm like, okay, I'm in this career for the last 18 years. And now I'm like, what do I do with all the stuff I've amassed? Like, what do I do with all the education? How do I organize it? How am I going to utilize it? And I don't think you can get I think you can get overwhelmed or overloaded, but I don't ever feel overloaded with too much stuff when I'm in front of my clients. I think if you're a good coach, you figure out a way to drop in the stuff into your system and utilize it, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, it's like you got the Rolodex, right? And it's like it's in your brain, and you're like, it's spinning, and it's like, ding, there's the drill that you pick up, right, Christy?
Yeah, so I'm going to pull a word from Cameron McCormick and Corey Lundberg. They always like to call it the toolbox, and they want to be able to go deep into the toolbox to be able to help who's ever in front of them. Well, the only way your toolbox can get really, really deep is to really self-educate and learn as much as you can. I have an off season, usually November, December, January. I spend the majority of that time absorbing and learning from as many people, as many classes, certifications, whatever I have to do, check those boxes so I can better my toolbox. So then when I hit my season from March to October, I'm pulling things out of everywhere from everybody, not just one book, to help somebody. I mean, I feel like if I have enough tools, I don't get overwhelmed, because I really do. I feel like I do a good job of self-organizing all of that. So then when my season hits, I'm ready to go. And we've all done it early in our careers, where you take every morsel of knowledge that you have and put it into one lesson. That's not good. That's not a good way to do it. But
you have it. Absolutely.
You've done it. You're lying to yourself. You have.
Totally. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That half-hour lesson took like an hour and a half, right? It's like,
exactly.
Oh
Because every big word you could think of was right there. No, I mean, so my words have become less, but my how broad my knowledge base has become massive, and that's really, really cool. I feel like I give some really solid, good lessons now that I've evolved a little bit.
You made a really good point, and yeah, the toolbox, it's one of these really interesting things, right? My good friend Scott Coates, he says anatomy toolbox and all that stuff, and he kind of talks a little PhD he's a brilliant man. And I often say I take, the toolbox and I turn it into a grade 2 pencil case, because I want because I want it to be coming out in a way that people can understand it, right? And if you're a kid in grade 2, your pencil case is stuffed full of cool stuff and erasers and markers, but you got to be able to creative and draw different things with that, right? And and I think it's a really important point. So where do you guys think instruction's heading? Is it, because I mean, some could say we're trying to rewrite things, some could say we're trying to do different things, but where do you think it's heading in the next 5 years in terms of online, offline, and technology? I'd love to know. Sarah, what do you think?
So I think we're going to go back. We're probably going to still stay and learn more about ground force. Obviously it's like when TrackMan first came out. There's some cool stuff being done. I've talked to a few coaches about, they're doing testing now. They can test your central nervous system and figure out what 4 areas in your, like on a chart where you can work. So maybe speed and endurance. This is so cool. Like I can't even tell you. So I think that there's motor pattern training stuff that's coming out that's going to blow up people's brains. I hope it doesn't go online. I'm really not a fan of the video teaching. I didn't do any. I wasn't even trying to do any. I think the in-person stuff, but I think we're going to see some much cooler stuff, because I think there's more coaches out there willing to work with doctors and physical therapists and people outside of our business, so that we can help our students get better faster.
Right. I agree with that. Sarah, I tried some onlines. It's not my thing. It's not. I need in person. I need activity. It's so hard. I wanted to love it. Sorry, people that I did with. You're going to have to come see me at the golf course because that's where I'm going to live. Technology is an amazing thing, and we're getting really, really deep. And I feel like we might be running out of things to check, right? I feel like I don't know. Are we at the end of the road? I can't think 5 years ahead. I'm having fun doing what I'm doing. Sarah mentioned central nervous system. Pia Nielsen and Lynn Marriott do a lot of heart math stuff. I'm fascinated by that. And I think if I go anywhere, that's where I'm going to spend my time.
That's really cool. I mean, you guys both brought up two things that honestly I hadn't even considered. I mean, you made a really good point, Christy, where you're saying there, well, what can we do next, right? And sure, let's map the brain. Let's talk about heart breathing, and let's talk about like how we can calm ourselves down, because we all know the anxiety of our golfers. And I mean, I listened to Brett McCabe talk at the PGA show, and he's talking about the 21st century golfer nowadays is the most anxious and so like worried golfer, because they want everything right now and they want it immensely. And knowing and understanding how to coach the 21st century golfer is such an important role, because one of the things that he said was, hey, look, if they don't get it from you, they're going to call up their high school coach. They're going to try and get it from them. And then they've got like 15 different things, like they got different viewpoints, right? It's like, but the high school coach is the one that's going to say maybe just the right thing that's different than what you're saying, because it's just going to be something that they want to hear. Right.
Right.
And so it's a really interesting point, because I think dealing with the anxiety of these golfers and how they progress is in itself something that we all could learn to do better, because it's like everybody wants it now.
Well, I work in New York. That's like the general theme. They wanted it yesterday. Okay, Doug, yesterday.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. What do you mean I can't hit that 280? What do you mean it's not going straight?
You know what's kind of cool? Like Christy said earlier about the coronavirus kind of having a silver lining, which I totally agree with. It's like playing lessons. I haven't been able to teach on the range at all for 2 weeks. So everyone doesn't even have that option. They can't even negotiate with you on it.
Right.
So you send right out on the course, and I start with, where are you aiming? They're like, the fairway. I'm like, no, not enough. Or what curve do you want? I'm like, they're like, curve. I want it to go straight. I'm like, we have to pick one. It's like, I think as coaches, we may have, at least I feel this way, just kind of moved a little bit too far away from the thinking on the course, and you get totally into the 2 hours on the range stuff. I'm like playing lessons. I love it.
Right. Actually playing the game. Right.
Well, isn't that what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to play.
This was so ingenious that the ranges couldn't be open. People had to physically go straight to the golf course and start playing golf. I mean, I think that was my favorite. And I said, this is the greatest. When our range was closed, I turned it into a short course for kids. So we would go out for our lessons and play golf on the range, which was perfect. And then the range came back open and we lost it. And that was heartbreaking. But I spent the time, the 2 weeks that it was crazy and we couldn't do anything. That's when we started doing strategy. Whoops. Oh, sorry.
Sends it into reverse.
No, my card, it just died. Okay, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Exactly.
No, so we started actually learning how to play golf without actually being on the golf course. We did strategy.
That's amazing. It's really interesting. Throughout all these talks, I've heard some unbelievable creative ways that people have been able to do things, right? I have one of my kids that's actually been staying up at his ski lodge, and it's not open, right? But he mapped out a 9-hole course. I said, the 7th hole, you got to hit it to this point and then turn and hit it over here. And like, I've had other kids like build things in their backyard because they had time, right? And I mean, the online thing for me was kind of a necessity because, we were a little bit the weather wasn't really conducive and I needed that actual interaction for me. So as a coach, right? I mean, and for me, I was actually able to do it, albeit my wife was really frustrated the fact that I painted the basement and there's all these marks on the wall from me swinging.
I think there's a lot of spouses who are like, oh my God, you can't believe what happened to our basement or garage.
Yeah,
100%.
That's right.
Exactly. All right, girls, here's my favorite time of the chats. I got 5 random questions for you guys. 5. All right. So one of you guys is going to get a chance to think about it a little longer than the other, but I'm going to alternate between the two of you. Okay, ready? All right, Christy. What is your go-to music in your car after a long day?
Greta Van Fleet.
Who?
Ah, that's right. Everybody go home and Google it. Greta Van Fleet.
All right, Greta Van Fleet. Is any relation to Nick Van Fleet from, the Raptors? No, okay. All right, Sarah.
90s on 9 or some electric dance music, depending on my mood.
Some EDM. Awesome. I love it. Great. Get a little Tiesto in there. Let's go.
Yes, exactly.
Totally. Exactly. All right, Sarah, you have a choice of one. Jelly donut, ice cream, apple pie, chocolate cake.
Oh, if my mom makes it, apple pie.
All right, love it. Christy.
Chocolate cake.
Oh, good stuff. All right, that's great.
If you threw Mexican coffee in there, though, Christy, we would have.
Oh my God, 1,000%.
I did not. Savannah. Mexican coffee. What are you speaking of?
Oh, Savannah. You were
Savannah at the Coffee Fox. There's this coffee shop. It's called the Coffee Fox, and they have Mexican coffee. It's unbelievable.
Next time.
Mocha, coffee, habanero.
Ooh, yum. All right. All right. So, Christy, who in your life is that behind-the-scenes person who helps you be as good as you are?
Eric Wright.
Eric Wright. Sarah.
My dad.
Wow. Cool. That's right. Who's Eric Wright?
Eric Wright. W-R-I-G-H-T.
Eric Wright. Sorry.
He's the brains behind the operation.
Amazing. All right. Okay, I hate to say this, Sarah, but you've been I just watched the last episode of Survivor. You've been marooned on an island, and what would you like to have washed up on shore with you so that you could survive until you're rescued like 2 weeks later?
Are we talking like books, food?
Whatever you want. You just can't have a boat or a helicopter.
All right, well, probably a really big, nice bottle of red wine and the Great Gatsby book.
Okay. How about you, Christy?
Is there internet access?
Nothing.
Is there cell phone?
Internet, no phone. You don't get a phone. You're like Gilligan's Island, man. No phone, no motor cars, no single luxury.
Oh my gosh, that's really hard.
Yeah, of course it is. What? These questions aren't easy.
12-pack of a 12-pack of summer shandy in cans. Okay. And God, it's gonna have to be a book, but I don't know which one. There's so many good ones.
That's okay. A good book. That's fine.
A really good book. A big one, a thick one.
Yeah,
cool.
A really big one.
Really big. War and Peace. Like this, right? All right. So, Christy, last one. What movie would you want to play a lead character in? What movie have you watched where you'd love to play the lead character?
Man on Fire.
Ooh, okay. Cool. Like that. That's Denzel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Christy. All right, Christy, I'm sorry. Hey, Sarah. Who would you like?
I just watched Molly's Game. I would totally play her.
Oh, that's a great movie.
She's so cool.
I know, right? How she keeps her cool in that. It's a true story, right? It's like
I want to be friends with this girl. I gotta find her.
It's like you should literally reach out and invite her for a golf lesson.
Christy, we would be besties with that girl for sure.
Oh,
I'm in. No, I'm in. I trust you. One of the few that I trust.
That's too funny. That's awesome. Well, those are awesome answers. I love it. That's great. So here's an interesting stat that I don't know if you guys knew. So the Society of Club Managers did a survey, and they found out that the health of a private golf club can be determined by how many junior girls are members.
Uh-huh.
The more junior girls, the healthier the membership. Because when a junior girl is a member, the mom typically takes out a membership and sticks around the golf club. When it's the boy, the mom typically does not join because they let the boy go off and be himself. Very interesting stat. How do you guys think we can get more junior girls involved? I mean, we're doing great stuff with the LPGA girls game and all the stuff, girls golf, but what do you think we can do to turn more girls onto golf to be the next generation of you two who are fantastic?
Well, I mean, I'm going to jump back right to the very beginning with Discover Golf. I mean,
okay.
Richard does a really good job of developing games that are geared towards specific where kids fit into different groups of categories of what they are feeling and their emotions and who they fit well with, very athletic, kind of introverted, whatnot. There's girls out there too, and girls like to be social, and girls like to have games. There's a game coming out called Sprinkoos, right? Sprinkoos, yeah. Yeah. You have to speak our language, right? You're gonna love it. I mean,
I'm gonna have to get a little. I'm gonna get like a crib notes version from Gavin.
You like ice cream sprinkles?
Oh gosh, ice cream's my favorite thing in the world.
Do you think girls like ice cream sprinkles?
No. Yes.
Right? There you have it. Golf game.
Golf game. There you go. You know, you know what's funny? You should say that that you're using ice cream sprinkles for to make a golf game. I've gone into I go into Walmart and look at board games, and I literally, right? I literally try to come up with. So I took this one called Bounce Off, which is you actually have this grate, and it's like you have little ping pong balls, and you have a card that shows you the structure that you need to bounce the ball into the grid to do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I took it to the golf course, made a big grid, right?
Yeah.
Put the golf balls in the formation, and then the kids had to putt and try to make teams had to try and make the formation in the grids, right? I mean, being creative, I think that's a really telltale sign of a great coach, because they don't realize that they're learning.
That's exactly right. You sneak the golf in on the back end.
Exactly.
If they're out there, if girls are out there having fun with their friends, because they have to be with their friends, they don't want to do it alone. If they're out there having fun and you sneak the golf in the back door for free, you won.
So Sarah, how did that happen for you? Were you always in golf, or how do you think you can use how you came up through golf to help get more girls involved, or was it different for you?
It was different for me. I fell into golf accidentally at a camp, and the counselor told my parents, we grew up on a farm, we were members of a club or anything, and he told my mom that I could be really good. He actually had me sign a piece of paper because he was going to have it when I was a big time golfer or something. But I had a wonderful guy who looked just like Chris Farley and had the sense of humor as Chris Farley. I think he might have been 27. I was 15. And he made it a lot of fun. He gave me golf clubs. He taught me for free. He got my base my golf swing off Mickey Wright. I mean, I am in the business because of him. I don't think a lot of kids would get that kind of an experience. That's kind of an accident. I think so. This is what we did at Westchester, which was really cool. Our director of instruction, Gary Weir, had me give playing lessons to the girls that he worked on their full swing. And at first I was offended. I was like, seriously, I could teach them too. But then I understood it to be, he wanted them to have a relationship with a female there who was a good golfer and a good coach. So I would go out and play 9 holes. So I got to work on my game and, beat up on these girls, which was a lot of fun because they all thought I'm in high school golf, I could play. But it was a fun experience because they would talk to me about boys. They talked to me about their parents. They talked to me about life stuff. And I was looking at it going, oh my God, I almost was insulted to be in this role. And now I'm probably better off because of it. So I think if there's a female at your club that you can put your students with for a couple holes once a week or something, that could be the difference.
It's an interesting point because you're bringing up a great point because it's, and please don't take this the wrong way, it's a little stereotypical, right? And it's a little bit like, oh yeah, no, you know what, Bill, that. But what's really interesting, and you made a really good point, they opened up to you more so than they probably would up to Gary out on the lesson, and be more intimidated by him out playing with him. So now all of a sudden, now there's a better communication. You're observing things. You can actually take it to Gary and help him get them better, right? But they look forward to getting out and playing with you, right? Christy, you actually post a few videos of some girls that there's this one young girl that you posted. You've been teaching her for like 3 or 4 years. I'm like a big fan of her swing because I always see it getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
She's in 10th grade, 11th grade. She's a tall blonde girl. I can't remember what her name is, but anyways, what is it about the relationship with a female coach that seems to be the enduring thing to get these girls to stay in golf?
Well, I think, we can always tell our story and how we started, but I'm going to kind of hark back on one little thing. We can look at it as a negative that we're females in the industry because all of us, every single female that I've ever met, we've been slighted in some way or missed out on a job for whatever reason. And maybe because we weren't the right person for the job, but also too because we were maybe competing against a male who would fit better in that role, and that it is what it is. But it's a double-edged sword also, because we have a little bit of leverage at a lot of golf clubs where they don't have a female on staff. And we can provide so much to so many different people. And I don't want to say that I'm pigeonholed into juniors and ladies, because I fought really hard to not be, but I'm accessible to everybody in our membership. And I don't get me wrong, I love kids. It's my wheelhouse. I'm so happy to be with them every day, but it's the relationship that you form and the value that you provide to those kids to make it feel like they're welcome and they can be open and they can be honest with you on whether they like it or they don't, or whether they're having fun or they're having struggles or anything like that. My golf relationships are just that. They're relationships with my players holistically, not just, hey, how's your golf game? What'd you shoot today? It's more about who they are as people and how I can help them be better people.
See, I love that, because I've always said this. We are not in the golf business. We are in the relationship business.
Yep.
The relationships we've had, and you two are part and parcel, a prime example of the relationship the three of us have, that, you know, we can call each other up and say, hey, look, you know, can you take a look at this or whatever, because
Sure.
there's a massive amount of respect there. Now,
yeah, I mean, I
right?
care about my players more than just what they're shooting on the golf course, you know, and they know that. They know that they can, you know, ask me anything, especially about their games or their future in the game. If they want to play at the next level, I'm going to be honest with them, and I'm going to do everything I can to help them with their goals.
So here's an interesting, here's a statement. So last Friday I had four female professionals from Canada on with me, and the director of golf at Shaughnessy Golf Club, Ashley Zabrick, made a really great comment. She said, I've never thought myself as a female golf professional. I've always thought myself as a golf professional.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought that quote was like, wow. I also felt like I took my size 14 and put it in my mouth, because I felt like, oh my gosh, right? I'm thinking, you're right. You guys are golf professionals. First and foremost. And that's one of the reasons why I did a Women in Golf Week, because I wanted to explain, like, I don't look at you two and say, you guys are female golf professionals. You're golf professionals. You're great coaches. That's how I look at it. Why? What can we do? What can we do to change that stigma? What can we do to help change that thought process? Because it seems like it's still very prevalent and still very old thought processes.
Well, I'll go first because I feel very passionately about this. But
Good.
I think it starts with the person. Like you said, she never saw herself as a female golf pro. And I had that moment a couple years ago where I was like, if I could only see myself as a female golf professional, that's all I'm ever going to be. So as soon as I stopped seeing myself that way and seeing myself as a golf coach, that's where it changed for me. And then it vibed out, you know, like I've run into members at Bears and I'm like, you know, I really appreciate you trusting me. And he's like, Sarah, you're a great coach. Just see yourself as a great coach. You're not a great female, you're not a great man, you're a great coach. And I think it starts with us. I think it starts with your own self and how you see yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I always grew up in with a brother and a dad and a mom, and my dad and my brother are both competitive players, and always was competitive doing what I was doing. And I always measured myself against how I could be against them, not because I was a girl, just how was I at their level? Could we compete against one another? And I always wanted to play and compete against everybody, male or female, it didn't matter. I'm competing in this world against humans, not against men or women. I look at myself as a golf professional, a golf coach with everybody else. Whether somebody considers me in a different light, you know, that's up to them. And I'm just going to do everything I can to show that I'm as equal as everyone else.
And I would say sometimes you guys are actually, and I'm not blowing smoke here, have a lot more insight than sometimes us dumbasses, because we really sometimes we really don't know how to communicate. And it's just something that I find is something, you know, they're not what's the word I'm looking for? They're not sympathetic. Nah, that's not the right word. Emphatic and empathy. That's it. They're not showing enough empathy. I could go up the word. Oh my gosh. And I really think it's a really bad trait, and it's something that I think that was instilled in me very early on in my mom to always have that, and I think that's why I think it's such a equal playing field here, because I've never looked at it as, you know, male or female at all. So here's an interesting question: what do you guys think you would be doing if you weren't golf coaches? How about you, Christy?
I'd be a teacher.
I don't know.
No?
I never thought I would be a teacher. I never thought I would, but I see that that's kind of the role that I have.
Cool.
I would be building something. I would be constructing or building something.
Like were you building a house? Is that what you were doing last week, or you're buying?
Oh, we're talking about it. We're exploring that option. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Home rental shows. That's what next. You'll be on HGTV.
Redecorating.
Here's the title.
Like from the ground up.
Right. I'm so crabby builds houses. There you go.
Yep.
That's it.
There you go.
All right, Sarah, you said something. If you weren't, you would be a teacher?
Probably a teacher or a writer.
A writer. Cool. Do you like to write?
I do.
That's great. That's great. So what are you working on right now?
I'm actually working on a book with one of my members down here at Bears that I helped coach, and she's a life executive coach, and she and I have gotten along, and she's like, we should write a book about what we do. So that's what we're doing.
That's awesome.
Cool. So I had this young woman on Tuesday, this young professional from north of where I live and stuff, and I couldn't believe the energy. And I couldn't believe that she didn't stop smiling the whole hour, and she talked way more than me. And it was like, which was unbelievable, right? And the one thing that she did, it's seriously. So the one thing that I really found really interesting was she came up with a couple things that were really cool. She wrote a book for her members and her clients, a little tip book that they can pull out and have on the golf course with them. I was like, that's kind of cool. I've heard of those things before, but like, she's 30 and very eager, right? But little things like this. What are some of the things that you guys do for your students to help them remember what you guys are teaching?
Love this question.
Go, Sarah, go.
Go, Sarah, go.
So this is funny. So when I got to Westchester for my second time there, which was 4 seasons ago, I wouldn't hand out handouts. Everybody who taught there before, it's the same handout for the last 50 years. And they're like, Sarah, where's our handout? I'm like, I don't have one. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, if you want to learn it, you write it down. And I'm going to teach you in a way that you're not going to forget what we're talking about. Trust me, because the last thing I want to do is have you come back next week at the same time and go over the same stuff.
That happens all the time.
Though. All the time.
I can't stand the flyer question. I'm like, the tennis pro doesn't give you one. The ski instructor doesn't give you. No one gives you flyers on the information.
No.
And I think if you coach in a way that you keep it simple enough, you don't need to write it down.
Okay, so I take that person's phone from them, and I record from their phone, them repeating back what they have to work on. Here's my cues. I'm recording them giving the instruction. Then they have it. Yeah. If they look at it, great. If they don't, and they say, and we have to start from scratch again at the next lesson, pull out your phone, look at the video, show me, right?
I love that. If you didn't work on it, you didn't look at it, well, let's review, right? Because
like I wish there was a way that it had a view count.
Right.
You know how right?
Yes.
If your phone had a view count, that would be helpful.
That'd be very helpful. I love that part because what I'll do is I'll probably put on the last couple minutes of the lesson, I'll do a review with them, and I'll get them to review it with me and then put it on their Coach Now page, right? And I mean, if they don't look at it, if they don't do the work, I mean, what are the consequences, right? And it's hey, I'm doing this to help you, and it's your game. It's not my game. I'm not swinging your golf clubs.
Accountability. You got to give them accountability.
I mean, they have accountability in every aspect of their life.
They
every
do.
other. Why can't there be accountability here too?
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that people are such crappy practicers? Why do they not practice what they're spending? They're spending a pretty dollar to get information from us.
Well,
We're
that's the
working
first
our
question
asses
I
off.
find out. That's the very first question I ask is, what are you going to do when you leave here? Are you going to practice? How many times a week? Are you never going to practice? And that's fine. Be honest. If you're never going to practice what we do together, I have no problem seeing you every Saturday at 10 a.m., knowing that you're not going to practice anything in between. You might play golf, but if you don't practice, I know which lane to go down with you. Right?
That's a really good point.
It's a really tiny, narrow lane, but that's the lane we're going to go. But if you tell me you're going to dedicate 3 hours a week, okay, I'm going to teach you a different way. And then when you come back and you didn't do 3 hours, then we have to change it again.
Why do you think, so Sarah, why do you think people are, just don't practice or don't know how to practice?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, if the coach isn't good at showing them how to practice, they don't know how to practice. And second of all, I think our industry, somewhere way back when tour pros were teaching to make money to play on the tour or something, the 15 or 20 minute Band-Aid, I hate that word, but people use it all the time. It's like you go through this cycle of like, you're giving out Band-Aids and then you're not doing them. And then you're getting to be a good enough coach where it is a 30-minute like situation where you help them right away. You kind of evolve through that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where it got lost, but I think your industry is to blame for sure. Like, especially in New York, it's like, I can't fix that in a half. And I tell people, it's impossible.
Man, I don't have time for, I don't have, what? You want me to fix what? Yes, exactly. How much time for that?
You don't have enough money. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Really, look, just write me an open check. I'll tell you when it's, I'll tell you when it.
I can't tell you how many books I read on accelerating learning. Like, I try to find every book outside the business on learning better, knowledge, everything, because Christy and I are similar. We want our students to get better really fast. Like, I want to accelerate the learning process.
Right.
I want to be the person that figures that out. And I am like endlessly looking for it because our clients aren't going to change.
No, they say they're going to practice, but they're not going to practice. They're not.
So have either of you seen or read the book called Atomic Habits?
Yes.
No.
I've read it. It's James.
I'm going to write it down. I'm writing it down right here.
It's a great book. So this is probably one of my most favorite lines out of this book. All right. You know how we sit there and work with our clients. We get goals. We say, hey, what are your goals? Right? Goals are awesome. However, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your system.
Yeah.
You can have all the goals you want. You're never getting to the end, to the goals. Because if you don't have a system in place, you can't have the steps to get you there.
That's right.
So that was one of the biggest things I took out of that book. So what do you work with your clients and your students to set up their system? How often do you have to take a step back and go, hey, your system needs a little rejig, because a lot of them don't really understand what their system is to begin with.
Well, their system has to match their goals first.
Okay.
I mean, so you have to establish what their goals are, and then you build the system that matches the time commitment or the effort level that they have for it.
I like that.
So, I mean, it could be so many different ways, because we see now, Doug, I don't know, I think I know that you see players of similar goal structure every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm seeing players that the goals run the gamut. They don't have goals. They don't know why they're there.
Or
you know, their goal is to.
I like that. They have no clue why they're standing in front of me.
They don't.
Okay.
Or they change. They're like, I just want to play for fun. And then they play
Right.
for fun. And now they're like, well, I really like to break 60. I'm like, okay, that's a different goal now. So
Right.
the stuff that I'm giving you to have fun is going to be different than what you need to do to break 60. And then, and so on.
Are
and
we
so
talking
forth.
for 9 holes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Is the having fun in the breaking the 60 on the 18? I don't
Oh
think
man.
that
Yeah, she really has high expectations for her students, eh? Like, oh my gosh. Get to Bears Club. She'll help you break 60, folks. Right there, Sarah Stone.
Yeah.
Sarah Stone breaking 60.
Stone golf sense, right there.
I can't teach non-members, so don't worry. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, forget it. You gotta be not. Oh my
Now
gosh.
with the corona going around, we're not allowed to have fun.
That's it.
That's true. I'm member only. And
Yeah.
boy, there's some kids out there that are feeling it.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
They are feeling it. So, listen, hour goes by like that. I just want to say, first and foremost, I always do a little shout out to all our frontline workers and everybody that's helping us stay safe. I thank them very much, because I really do believe that, you know, they are putting themselves in harm's way. But without saying, I mean, listen, ladies, it was my pleasure to have both of you guys come on. You guys dropping nuggets like crazy. Some great hilarity, as I fully expected. And always a wonderful opportunity to see the both of you from afar.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank you, Doug.
I really do
Good to
appreciate
see you,
it.
Sarah.
Listen, don't go away. I'm just gonna kill this, and then we'll